In 2024, I analyzed hundreds of deals and I helped a ridiculous amount of people be able to identify properties that would make really strong cash flowing Airbnbs. And these are 8 lessons that I learned through that entire process. Now, there's a bunch of sub lessons as well, but 8 major ones that I wanted to go through with you. The reason I wanted to do this video and in the style that I wanted to do it is because I see more deals and work on more deals and put more time into more deals than majority of people, right? I do this full time. A lot of people do it part time. And so I thought to myself, hey, I'm seeing more of this. Why don't I take some of the lessons that I learned and share it with everybody else who's doing it part time? Because then you don't have to go through hundreds of deals or help with, a ridiculous amount of transactions to be able to know what to do and what not to do, right? A lot of these are like, hey, don't do these things. And I think that they'll be valuable, right? I made a list of what I thought was going to be valuable. Maybe you're like, oh, everyone already knows that, whatever it may be. Regardless, I got 8 that I want to go through with you, and they're in no particular order. And this is going to be a very casual conversation. I'm going to sip my coffee as I do this. A little early in the morning for me, but I want to get through this. So the very first one, and I actually considered putting this at the bottom because it's such a good one, but let's open with it. I think it's a good one to open with. The majority of people, it's actually, this one blows my mind. The majority of people will look at an amazing deal, which is like one of the best possible properties that they could purchase in all of America, and still not pull the trigger on it. And then you could show them 10 more amazing deals and they still won't pull the trigger on it. And it's this weird thing. So I want to try and provide some lessons as I go through this as well, right? But the thing that I realized was that people can quite literally not pull the trigger on an amazing deal, and it has to do with perspective more than anything. So a lot of people don't know what is a good deal in comparison to what's a bad deal. And I've seen, again, hundreds, if not thousands at this point, and I can look at a deal and be like, wow, that's a home run right there. That's a double, but it's still an amazing deal that's going to work out for a ton of people. But then I go and show it to somebody who hasn't seen as many deals, and they just don't have that perspective. They don't understand. They don't have a reference point, right? They don't know this is a bad deal, that's a good deal, move on these deals, right? But I see them all the time. And so what we've actually realized, because again, we help people identify these properties, and so we're working with a lot of clients, and what we've realized is that it usually takes about 7 really, really good deals. Like I'm saying, anybody who was watching this video would absolutely love these deals. They've got to see about 7 of those before they go, okay, and the past 6 that I've just seen and this new 7th one are all roughly making the exact same amount of money, the exact same amount of cash flow. They're all really, really good deals. I now understand that because I've seen so many of them. I'll now pull the trigger on this deal. And I find that to be just an interesting insight from my perspective because, again, dealing with so many people and showing them really good deals and they're still not moving on it, I just couldn't imagine what it would be like if I was doing this part-time and if I was trying to figure it out and if I really was, hesitant on these deals. How many deals are you guys seeing that are just absolute home runs, but you don't realize they're home runs because you're looking for something even better, and that thing that's even better, like, either doesn't exist or it's a 1 in every 10,000 homes you're going to see it. So I guess the lesson there is try to find a base. Like try to find I won't take a deal if the cash on cash or the cash flow is X. However, if it meets Y, then I'll move on the deal, right? And then just hold yourself accountable to that. If it does this, then move on the deal because this is good. This is great. Move on it, right? Stop waiting for this absolutely magical deal to show up. All right, I'm spending too much time on that one, and I want to kind of keep moving through these a little quicker. So that was the first thing, probably one of the bigger ones, but I do have a lot of other good ones down here too. So the second one is a lower basis is almost always better. I say almost always because it's not always, but what I mean by that is buying the home at a lower price tends to be a lot better for being able to try and hit your cash flow, right? So we had a client that was looking at 2 deals and one was $100,000 more than the other one. And he liked the one that was $100,000 more because it was more fixed up, right? It was prettier, let's put it that way. But in my opinion, I was like, the the other one's $100,000 more. Could you make it as pretty or slightly prettier, or at least pretty enough to be able to make the same revenue as another one and save that $100,000? Now, mind you, you're going to leverage about 80% of that $100,000, and that's where it gets tricky, because your monthly mortgage is now $80,000 higher, which in this scenario equated to like, I don't want to get the numbers really wrong, but it was like $7,000 more on an annual basis that he would pay for the one home over the other home. And the thing is that he cared a lot about cash flow. He really, really wanted the property to cash flow a lot. And I was like, well, if you get this home that's a little, that's $100,000 more, you're going to have to make $8,000 more in revenue just to make the exact same as you would over here. And based off of the bones of the property for both of them, meaning like the bedroom, bathroom count, the living room count, the size of the kitchen, the backyard, the amenities, they were going to be the exact same. And so it was really, the only one was just slightly prettier because it had better floors and a newer kitchen and slightly newer bathroom, but he could make almost the exact same out of both. So why spend $100,000 more on the other one? And that was sort of the big takeaway. And that tends to be the case, is if you can find a more affordable home that can roughly do the same as a more expensive home, you're just giving yourself less expenses to pay on an annual basis, which then allows you to be able to hit your cash flow projections a lot easier. And I actually have my 8th point, I'm just going to bring it up right now because I think it ties in really well with this, which is that I love ugly homes. I know that this is not a new thing to say. I've heard a ridiculous amount of people say this, but I love an ugly home. I would prefer an ugly home over that fixed up home almost every single time because they are so much cheaper. And if you can see what that ugly home is going to become, then you can realize the potential in it. Okay? And when I'm referring to an ugly home, just so you can see what I'm seeing in my head, I'm not talking about like a home that needs to be completely torn down or completely renovated or anything along those lines. But I'm saying the home that has the outdated floors and the outdated kitchen and the outdated bathroom. And that's pretty well it. That's actually it if I were to think about it. Because those homes with the outdated of those three things are almost always significantly cheaper. In the case that I just told you is about $100,000 cheaper. The one had a bit more square footage, but it wasn't useful square footage for what we were trying to do, right? So with that being the case, the wrap that one up, a lower basis to me is always better. And if you can find the ugly home and see what it's going to become, that's also a winning move as well. So those two are straight up winning moves. Okay. Now this next one, I love this one because we got this one killer who is a client. We've helped her buy about 3 properties now, and she's actually one of our only clients that does this, and we're trying to get other clients to do it because it just makes so much sense. But she understands the game and she's playing it well. And so I think you guys could learn from this one. And let me just explain it and then we'll get into it. So this one client has put multiple offers on a bunch of different deals that we show her. And then she goes, I'll take the one where the seller is willing to negotiate. So we showed her 3 deals. She puts an offer in on all 3 because she understands that all 3 of those deals are good. Like I said at the very beginning for the first point, we're showing them all these really great deals. Now she has a lot of perspective because she's seen a lot of bad deals. So she knows she's looking at good deals. And so then what she does is she just puts an offer on all 3 because she's happy with any of them. And she's like, I'll take any of them. Who's willing to negotiate? Who's going to give me the better deal, right? I don't know. I love this strategy because she's just like putting it on the table. And she's being like, let's go. What do you got? You know what I mean? Show me who's willing to negotiate. Show me who's willing to give me the better deal. That's gonna make the deal the best deal, right? So we showed her 3 deals that were good, and either of them she could have taken, but by negotiating, she makes the deal better, right? And so I love that because a lot of people are scared to do that. And you don't need to be scared to do that because you can walk away from the deal as long as you have something in the clause that allows you to be able to walk away from it. And asking for something and them saying no is usually the worst that's going to happen. And so if you put in those multiple deals, multiple offers, and then start negotiating, you could walk away with a significantly better deal in comparison to what you were seeing online in the first place. And so kudos to her. I think it was one of the coolest things. And again, I think you should do it. I think everyone should do it. I think if you're in this game, it makes sense to do. Okay. All right. Let me take a quick little sip here. Now, this next one is for you people with the tax problem. All right. So I got 2 points on this one. There are a ton of people who are looking to take advantage of the STR tax loophole. If you don't know what that is, go to my YouTube channel or just, go to YouTube and type in the STR tax loophole and look it up. And you'll learn a ridiculous amount about it. It's a way to be able to save on active income and save your taxes on active income, whereas most things are just on passive income. And I'm not sure if that's 100% correct. I am not an accountant by any means, but that's my best understanding of it. Regardless, the point that I'm trying to get at here, and the thing that I see happening so often, it is ridiculous. And again, if you're a high net worth individual who's looking to save money on their taxes, and even if you're just not a high net worth individual, but you want to save on your W-2 taxes, this point's for you, okay? So many of you will say, I am acquiring this home because I want to save on the STR tax loophole, and I don't care if it makes money. I just want it to break even because I'm saving so much money in taxes, it won't matter. And I'm here to tell you that's stupid, okay? Hear me out. If you're willing to buy a property today that will break even during good times, let's say, it's not amazing times, right, that we're in right now, but the economy is fairly steady. Nobody's like out in the, I was about to say out in the streets. There's so many people out in the streets. What I'm trying to say is it can get worse, okay? And I've seen it get worse multiple times. And right now it's better than it has been before and what it's going to be when the time comes. And so what I'm trying to say is that if you're willing to buy this property that is just going to break even, chances are when stuff goes bad, when we hit the next recession, that property is going to lose so much money that you got to be ready and willing to be able to cover those expenses during that time frame, and you can just watch all of your tax savings go away, right? Because you're just going to be dumping money into that property. Additionally, I've seen a lot of you guys do your revenue forecasting on what you expect that property to make, and a lot of you guys who are, high net worth individuals in a completely different career, you're overestimating what you think that property is going to make. And you're saying, yeah, it's going to break even as long as it makes $100,000. And I go and look at that same deal and I go, that thing's going to make $70,000, maybe $80,000 if you're lucky. Which means, I'm not saying that everybody's wrong, right? I'm not saying everybody's wrong. I'm not trying to say you don't know how to do a revenue forecasting. I'm sure you're a very, very, very smart person and you believe those numbers very well, that you can hit those numbers. And I agree with you. However, if you make a mistake, right? Or if you don't manage well, and the goal is to break even, but you make a mistake or somebody asks for a refund, you're automatically starting to lose money. And every single mistake is coming out of your pocket, out of your income that you're working for to be able to cover this asset. Now, you're going to get principal pay down, you're going to get appreciation, you get these things, right? However, if the property continues to lose you money, then you're going to eventually have to sell it because you've lost all the benefit that you originally were going for, right? Let's say you got $60,000 in tax savings and you're losing $30,000 a year. In 2 years, you're gonna be like, why am I holding on to this property? Even if you're losing $20,000 a year, you're gonna be like, why am I holding on to this property, right? And you're eventually gonna sell it. And so what I'm trying to say is that something that I've heard so many times is that I just need the property to break even, and I can't tell you how unsmart that move is, and that you don't need to do that. That's the other thing. You don't need to. There's a ton of properties, a ridiculous amount of properties out there that will cash flow. Even if it's minimal cash flow, they'll cash flow. And if you're in that situation and you need help finding a property that will cash flow, go to the link down below, schedule a call with somebody on my team. It will help you find a good deal, okay? All right, got that off my chest because that one's been getting to me. Now, the next one, this is sort of like a piece that goes along with the last piece, which is that a good accountant can amplify your real estate game, whereas a bad accountant is going to hold you back. Okay. And I realize this because we did multiple webinars with accountants who specialize in real estate and the STR tax loophole. And they had such a deep understanding of how to help you save in taxes and how to help you amplify what you are doing, that if you have the wrong accountant and you are trying to get in the real estate game, it's going to hurt you. if you find the right accountant, it's going to help you. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right? And I say this because I talked to one guy, and I told him, like, do you know what the STR tax loophole? Because he had already started buying a couple of properties. He was a higher net worth individual. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I've heard about it, but my accountant won't do it for me because he says it's not right, or I don't qualify, or this or that, whatever it may be. And I, kind of asked him a handful of questions about a situation. I was like, I'm pretty sure you're good and that you should qualify for this. And he was just kind of blown away by the fact that I knew more than his accountant in that situation. Obviously, we introduced him to our accountant that we recommend, and I actually don't know what ended up happening with that guy, but I can almost guarantee you that he's going to be in a significantly better situation with our accountant than he would have been with his accountant. So, yeah, I can't stress that enough. Like, these accountants know things that you wouldn't know. So it's the whole old verbiage of what you don't know. Oh man, what you don't know is what really hurts you, right? So like, you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know, right? So like the things that you've never even heard of or never even considered or anything along those lines, those are the things that can move the needle more than anything. And the accountants know those things like crazy. Just like, that's all they do, right? That's all they do. They talk to a ridiculous amount of people all day, every day, and they study this kind of stuff. And that's why they know it like the back of their hand. Just like I'm able to rattle all this stuff off the top of my head and go for 20 minutes straight on all these different little things I've seen, because this is all I do, right? So the lessons you can learn from them and the money you can save from working with them is ridiculous. So reach out to them if you haven't. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Let me take another sip here. All right. This one's fun. So, well, fun, but scary at the same time, and making my job harder, but that's okay. I like the challenge. Let's get into it. So there's sort of 2 points on this one. The first one is that amenities are more important than they've ever been. Now, if you watch this, you've been following my stuff, you already know that amenities are really important. However, it's just becoming more and more and more clear that amenities are just the next iteration of Airbnbs. And if you want to stay in the game, you gotta get on top of it. And I know that this has been the thing for almost 2 years now. I just can't stress the fact that it seems like everybody is just throwing in everybody is throwing the money at the amenities now, way more than they were before. So in 2024, it was just a ridiculous amount of that happening, but it has to happen, right? So back in the day, everyone was selling a bedroom, bathroom, living room, and kitchen. Now everyone's selling that, but they're also selling the hot tub, the pool, the mini putt, the hanging lights, the outdoor dining set, the cornhole, the game room, the movie theater room. They're selling all of these things. And so when people are going to book a home, they're seeing all these options, right? And they get to decide, which one should I go for? Should I go for the one that's just giving me a bedroom, bathroom, living room, kitchen for $500? Or should I go for the one with all these additional amenities for $700? Yeah, I'll take that one. $200 more, and we get all of these things that are going to make our vacation more enjoyable and give us things to do while we're there that maybe we don't even have at our own home. And so then therefore it's going to be a better experience. Yeah, why wouldn't I want to do that? So amenities are just, it's where it's going, right? If you don't have that unique, creative, amazing home that's like this cabin in the middle of the woods, that's a modern new build that backs onto a private lake and is super unique and built by some architect, right? If you don't have that, then you're gonna need amenities to stand out in most of these markets. And so that's just where it's at, okay? And then on top of that, what I'm realizing is that obviously amenities are creating far more competition, making my job a lot harder, which I already mentioned, but it's making me get more creative and find even more markets. So honestly, it was kind of easy 2 years ago finding a home in a market where there's like no amenities, and then you just throw a bunch of amenities in there and the home does really, really well. And it's like, oh, who would have thought? But now you got to get more creative with the type of amenities, the way that they're put together, the markets that you're in, who you're competing with, the size of the home, there's a lot more like one-off markets, I would say. So instead of being able to put, 40 homes in one market, it's like, okay, well, maybe we can get 5 over here, we can get 20 over there, we can get 2 over here, and then just playing this game where you've got more knowledge on more markets rather than it being condensed. And that's really what I'm planning on doing. I don't know about you guys. I don't know. Again, I know you guys only need to buy 1, 2, 3, maybe homes over the next 5 years, but I got to find a lot of them. And so I'm just telling you the way that I'm thinking about this and hoping once again that it's helpful when you're listening to it. All right. So that was point 5. Let's move on to point 6, which is, we got point 6 and point 7. I think point 6 should have been the last one because, you know what? I'm going to save point 6 for the last one because it's the number one mistake, I would say. And I'm actually going to take point 7 and bring it up with this whole amenities conversation that we've been having, because the other major mistake that I see people making is significantly underestimating what it's going to cost to get the property to the level that it needs to be, right? So, not throwing anyone under the bus or anything along those lines, but I've just talked to a lot of people and they'll tell me like, yeah, I'm going to convert the garage and turn it into blah, 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 blah. And they give me this whole breakdown of this amazing thing that they're going to do. And I go, okay, well, what's your budget? And they're like, well, I've got about, $2,500 to $5,000 to be able to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if you're planning on closing in that garage, to make it temperature controlled because you're in a cold climate and you need to make it so that people can actually use the garage for the majority of the year, not just part of the year. And I'm like, you just don't even have nearly enough money to be able to just close it in, let alone make it into this magical room that you're trying to make it into. And I think that there's just a disconnect between what things actually cost and what people want to do. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned in 2024. I was right there with you guys in 2023. I was like, I had no idea how much all this stuff costs. And I thought I had a good understanding, but I just didn't, right? And so there's significant costs to getting the home set up to be this elite home that a lot of people are striving for nowadays, that works really well to drive cash flow and revenue and all these things. And so I think just the lesson there is like, try to talk to either people who have done it or companies that offer it or something along those lines. Even Facebook groups, just reach out and be like, hey, how much does it cost to get an entire garage converted, enclosed, so that I can turn it into a movie theater room? Like, what do you guys think that'll cost from your experience? And just get a better understanding of what that's going to cost, because I hate the idea of people going into these homes thinking that they're going to do all of these things on a $10,000 budget. And it's just like, what are you talking about? To set up the kitchen and get the sheets and everything is going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, let alone everything else that you're planning on doing. So that's the one thing. The other thing I do want to say too is you don't need to do everything on day one. And I think that this is a really good lesson. I actually wasn't even planning on talking about this, but we call it growing into the property. Okay. So sometimes your budget only allows you to be able to get the home set up in a good way, just not a great way. In other words, like maybe you don't have the movie theater. Maybe you're not able to convert the garage and turn it into a movie theater on the amount of capital that you have to be able to get the property up and running today. Does that mean that you shouldn't move forward with the property? Not necessarily, right? Maybe you lock in a good deal and you're not going to make $30,000 in free cash flow profit for the year, but maybe you'll make like 15 or 10,000, right? So you're still making money, and then you can save up and reinvest back into the property to then make it a better property moving forward. And so this is one of the lessons, the major lessons, and kind of one of the secrets. So if you've watched this video all the way to here, kudos, you'll get this secret. Try to find properties that you can grow into over the next 5 to 10 years, right? So giving yourself space, whether it be inside or outside, to be able to continue to add things to the property that are going to allow you to outcompete your competition. Because I've seen so many people, and a good example is a guy bought a cabin on the side of a mountain, and he did everything on the interior of that home to make it beautiful, but there was no room on the outside, no land on the outside to do anything at all. And so guess what? He maximized the potential out of that property in year one, and then has been holding it for a handful of years, and he wants to try to make it better to keep up with the competition, but he can't do anything because he's got no place to put anything. Okay, you can't make he could potentially make the game room slightly better, but that's not going to drive the revenue that he needed to be able to keep competing in that market as time goes on. So just keep that one in mind as you're looking at these properties, is like, can I grow into this one over the next 5 to 10 years? I got enough to make, I got enough today to be able to do X, Y, and Z, but in the next 5 years, I could add A, B, C to this property, and that's going to allow me to keep competing within this market and hold the property even longer than most other people. And I think that's a good strategy and a good way to think about a property when you're trying to get it. Okay, at least that's what we tell a lot of our clients. So let's get to the last point here, and this is going to be some tough love. All right, I'm going to be a little bit more direct than normal, but you guys got to stop thinking and estimating that you're going to be in the top 1% of the market that you go into. Some of you will make it into the top 1% because you've got the budget, the know-how, and you're buying the right property to get you in that top 1% of your market. But I cannot tell you the amount of people that I talk with where they say, hey, I'm considering to buy this property. Can you take a look at it? I think it's going to make $120,000. And then I go and look online, and the best of the best properties, so like only one property is making that $120,000. And so then I tell them, I'm like, you realize that if you're going to get this property, you need to beat everybody in this market to be the top 1%. And the property that you're considering to buy isn't even the main type of property that people want in this market. So how in the world is that property going to be the top 1%? And you might be thinking this, you'd be like, oh, I would never make that mistake. Oh, I would never do that. No, the property I'm looking at is definitely good enough to be in the top 1%. I definitely know how to do that. I'm telling you guys, I've been doing this more than most people. I'm sure there's people out there that have done it more than me, but I've been doing it, more than most. And I rarely, if ever, will consider us to be in the top 1%, let alone the top 5%. I'm always trying to estimate for we'll aim for the top 10%. That's the goal. But if we land in the top 75 percentile, is that okay still, right? Because what if we make mistakes? What if the property doesn't get put together in the way we want to put together? What if the photos don't come out properly? What if we don't manage it properly? What if, right? That's the scenario. And so I hate the idea of trying to be in that top 1 percentile market to make the property work. Right? That's the thing. I would prefer that this is the big differential. I don't know if I said that right. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of these people that I'm also looking at is they want the property to be in the top 1%. And if it's in the top 1%, it works. In other words, it's a property that will cash flow. However, if it's in the 90th percentile, it doesn't work. Or the 90th ranking, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't work. So then therefore, the homes that they're considering to buy, they have to be in the top 1%. In my opinion, that's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous because you're striving to be the absolute best. And if you are not, the property doesn't work. You know how many markets I've looked into to know that you don't have to do that to make a property work? You just don't. There's tons of markets out there where you don't have to do that. And so what I'm trying to stress here is that stop getting emotionally attached to your properties and thinking that you can be in that top 1 percentile and thinking that you can do everything right to make it work. Please stop that overestimating, right? And be more conservative with your estimations and be happy with the low end. Look at a property and go, let's say that you wanted it to make 120. You wanted, that's the ideal scenario, is it makes 120, right? Would you be okay moving forward with that property if it only made 80,000? If the answer is yes, and you can you have the chance of getting up to 120, that's the scenario you want to be in. Don't be in the scenario where you have to make 120 to make it work. Be in the scenario where if it hit 80, you're okay, and if it hits 120, you're freaking cheering, you're excited, you're having a great time, everything's good, all right? So that one I thought was the best one to leave to the end. With all that being said, guys, those are my top lessons that I learned in 2024. Again, a lot of this stuff I think is Some of it was known, some of it was not, but these are big, big takeaways of what I'm learning, and I'll try and keep teaching you my lessons as I continue to go. Subscribe, like this video, share with other people if you're still here. I appreciate you people who are still here watching this video. Again, I just appreciate you guys. I can't say it enough, and I hope you found this valuable. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.